Greetings, fellow tarnished, or whatever we are in the new game, like Night Riders, Night Moves, Bob Seger, something like that. Anyway, I wanted to give my impressions. I wanted to record a video giving my impressions on the Nightreign network test. I'm still recording from my phone because I still haven't taken the time to mess with OBS recording to fix that. So it won't be anything fancy here, but I did just want to talk about it for a little bit. I did get a chance to play over the weekend. I didn't receive a code initially, like from Bandai Namco themselves, but a friend of mine, a Renegade operative, did lend me a code for PS5. So thanks very much, Ren. So I did get a chance to play it. I didn't get the chance to get any footage, which is why I'm recording a video like this. On PS5, the game capturing stuff was disabled in terms of like I couldn't record video or take screenshots or anything on the PS5 directly. Probably could have gotten footage um, if I had set up my capture card and stuff, but I didn't take the time to do that, and it was just I just wanted to play the game and then I could record impressions afterward. But a kind of a very simple thing that we've kind of like taken advantage of, which is like the premise that this experience offers, is like just getting down to like the essence of what Elden Ring is and condensing that into like a 30 to 45-minute playtime each time. Because like if it's ever been like if for some reason you've ever been like, oh, I kind of want to get into Elden Ring, but it's a little daunting, or it's got a long play time or something, I do think this is a good opportunity to get into it. But I would just recommend playing Elden Ring because it's one of the greatest games of all time. And that's coming from someone who didn't even like Soulsborns before that game. So I think um, I think I have something to say on the matter. But let's see what to talk about first. I spent most of my time playing as either Guardian or Duchess, actually. I tried a bit of Recluse, the spellcaster, but I basically played as everyone except for Wilder because I didn't want to be a basic bitch because I'm just like that. Um, I thought Guardian, the Burb, would be a lot more popular than he was, but I only saw I don't know. It was like usually I was the one playing Guardian, and I played like several games, and there were only like two other games where there was a Guardian even there. I feel like, but Guardian was pretty interesting. The weapons I was getting as him were pretty good. I was getting like twin blades, which were very much appreciated, um, and I got like the golden sword spear that I used for a good amount of my playthrough. That's on my channel. But what I found is it didn't have the same move set. It was a lot more pokey than it having the swipe attacks. So while you may find a weapon that you're familiar with or a weapon that you may have used, it might not be the same one to one as it was in the game. There might be it might have a different move set attached or something like that. Was the takeaway from that? But but yeah, it's a very quick gameplay loop and actually a pretty satisfying gameplay loop, I would say. So you, if you're not familiar with it or you didn't get a chance to try, basically you're going through a cycle of a few days. So the first day you are just running around the map, trying to collect as many resources as you can, whether it's weapons, whether it's gear, consumables, or obviously runes to level up. Um, Everything's kind of expedited in the process. So you defeat enemies for rune acquisition. Then you'll want to find sites of grace and things like that. If you just go near a site of grace, it will heal you. So it's kind of funny. You can kind of kite fights over there in some cases and just kind of constantly get healed by the site of grace periodically by going in and out of it. And then each character that you pick has like a predetermined um, progression path. So all you have to do to level up is just click or press on the side of Grace and press like X or whatever button it is to level up. Um, and it does it. I believe I saw the max level is 15 to for like over the course of the whole session. So you're starting at level 1 and trying to build up to level 15 to get as buffed up as possible as you can get. And then gear, in addition to like giving you different weapon sets and stuff, it will let you use any weapon that you want. I'm pretty sure. I believe I saw after a certain level, it was only like level 3 or something. It said something about like you gain proficiency with like unusual armaments and things like that. So like at that point, you can use pretty much anything you want. I believe I've seen footage of like a recluse, the spellcaster, using like the goldskin peeler. I want to say it was called the twin blade thing, or in one of the sessions that I saw more firsthand or that I played. There was a recluse, the spellcaster, using a washing pole, the long ass katana, which was fun. So yeah, you can basically use whatever you want. I kind of stuck with the same motif as Guardian. I was happy getting like twin blades or sword spears. I want the twin blades anyway. But his shield is good. It's got full protection, I believe, and then you've got the L2 ability, which is kind of a like a charge shield dash that some bigger shields have. I believe the tower shields in actual Elden Ring have that. And so he's obviously very good for defense. I kind of realized a little too late that I wasn't using guard counters quite as much as I should have been. Like that should have been a big thing for him to do that. But yeah, he could be a guard counter machine if you want him to be. But I did point is I did want to keep the shield, and then having something a little more imposing in the one hand, like a twin blade or sword spear, something like that. Although if you know from my experience from actual Elden Ring, I'm not a huge fan of the like pokey move sets. Um, but it worked out generally well. And then with Duchess, she starts out with a dagger that actually has I think it's like a magic buff that you can apply on it for the R2. And or was it the Ash of War? It might have been the Ash of War because they didn't have anything in their side hand. But for one of my runs, I ended up finding another dagger, and so I just two-handed daggers and was just a DPS machine. Just doing that. I want to say I found something else for her. I think I found like a great sword, but I didn't end up using it. Because that's another thing. Because the weapons, in addition to like changing your move sets and stuff, they can also give you effects to help you out. Let's see if I can think of one in particular. Like there was a one of my runs. It was probably my first run as Guardian. Actually, I ended up finding a dagger that where its ability was basically you recover HP whenever you defeat an enemy. So even though I wasn't actively using the dagger, I just like had it on my person. It was still giving me that effect, and I was still recovering HP, and that's great. That's a really useful thing to have. Um, so you have the 3 slots for each hand that you can switch between if you do actually want to use those weapons and gear. And you do also have, I want to say it was 4 slots for consumables. And so if you keep picking up different kinds of consumables, it'll eventually ask you to swap one of those out because you can only carry so many, or unless you use them first. But yeah, it's and then what else to talk about? So I was going over the cycle. So you have so like during the day, day one, where you accumulate everything you can, spot things, level up, and then the map is progressively getting smaller in battle royale fashion, like Fortnite, things like that. And then once it gets as small as it can, because eventually it's going from like day to night over the course of that cycle. And so what is eventually happening when it gets to night, the map is the smallest. It's isolated in one area. I did find it's normally it's normally under this is a good thing. So normally where they have those it's like the Erd tree silhouettes that are like just made of light. So what I found is for the boss fights for that night, they're normally just going to be right under where that is. So if you spot that in the distance and you can like try to pinpoint that on your map, and that like chances are that's where you're going to have to go toward the end. So you can plan ahead for that. Um, yeah, the boss fight typically takes place under that. So the full cycle is you have day one and a boss at night. So just like day one to level up and stuff, and then the boss is at night for night one. And then if you defeat that boss, you move on to day two where you start leveling up and stuff again. And then you have the boss at night two, and then I believe the third day um, is kind of just going to a boss on the third day, like the big boss that you're trying to defeat. Um, I can go back on this a little bit. The hub area is still the round table hold. It's kind of like a worn down version of round table hold. I imagine it's a long while after the events of Elden Ring. But some walls have crumbled out. You can actually go outside of round table hold a little bit. There's like a hill you can go to, and there's a whole like practice area. So if you wanna, like, there are things to like change your character, and if you can change your character and go to the little practice range and try out their abilities and stuff like that. Um, and then where was I going with that? But yeah, so you can do all that in round table hold, and then you match make at the table, like the big table that has the swords and the large site of grace in the center of it. That's where you match make. And then there's also a station because when you complete a match, whether you win it or not, you do collect these sort of like permanent upgrades. I believe they call them like rifts or runes or something like that. Um, and each character has a certain amount of slots. Um, to equip things, and they have like permanent effects that you take with you and take into each match. I don't believe they were consumable in any way. Um, the one thing I noticed in terms of like the organizational method and where you can equip each one is that they're color coded. So it's all based off of the color at the bottom, the base of the slot that you're putting in, and then the color of the gem in what you're trying to equip. Those colors have to match, and then that's the only thing. And I did notice some of those had effects specific to certain characters, even though those characters at the time did not have the right color slot to equip that. So that's something interesting where you might have to, or there might be a way to change those slots somehow. I was also accumulating some type of currency called Merc, that I believe it said was used to barter at Round Table Hold. So there's going to be some kind of shopkeeper there. I imagine there's going to be like cosmetic stuff to start with, so not everyone's character will look exactly the same. That would be nice at least. And so that, but in the network test, all you had there at Round Table Hold at the moment, aside from just stuff lying around and like the all the things that I mentioned that you can do. You just in terms of like NPCs and characters and stuff, they just had the other playable characters there at the moment to talk to, and they all just had like one line to say, pretty generic stuff. It was like, "I'm always ready to fight. When can we fight? Do you need something?" You know, they all just had something like that to say. Um, and it's just like whatever character you're not currently slated as. Um, is there. So, say for example, if you're Guardian, then you're gonna find Duchess, Recluse, and Wilder there. That they were just lying around in various places. Um, and then in the full version of the game, there are going to be more playable characters, and there's likely going to be more NPCs to like barter with and things like that. So that round table hold could end up being pretty lively, like it was in actual Elden Ring. Um, But getting back to the cycle, I unfortunately with my runs, I never unfortunately got to day three. The farthest mine got was the boss fight at on night two, a few times. So I did want to bring up the bosses. I believe that's the last thing. As for the bosses that I encountered, for night one, I think there were only like two options that came up in the several games that I played. So it seems a lot of what they're doing is they're in quite a few cases they're not just putting like one boss that you know out in front of you. It's kind of a combination. So what I would run into a lot for night one is they would have a demi-human queen, and then there was someone else with them. I believe they were called demi-human swordmaster, which I believe some other people mentioned were a thing in the DLC. Um, and so you had to fight them together. There were a few times where like the demi-human queen would just like wait a while to aggro, but the sword master would be all over the place and on your shit. So they kind of balanced each other out that way. Demi-human queen is a big like spellcaster anyway. I believe I'm still using their staff where I am in the the DLC of actual Elden Ring. So that was one, and then when it wasn't them on night one, it was Centipede Demon from Dark Souls One, um, who I remember is like he's really huge and pretty intimidating looking. I'm like, this seems like a little much for night one. I mean, Demi Human Queen I kind of understood because they were just in like what was it, Weeping Peninsula? They were just off in some ruins over there. But yeah, and then Centipede Demon. If you're familiar or if you're not familiar, there were parts you can like break off, and then those parts become sentient and start attacking you as well. And they're just pretty intimidating looking. But we did defeat them at least once as a group. Um, and For night two, let's see. So during the day, on day two, there are instances where a fell omen can just spawn to annoy the shit out of you, and I honestly hope they just remove that feature because the one time it happened to me was incredibly annoying. Um, I'm not even sure like what activated it. It was just one run where a fell omen just randomly spawned, and then he just aggroed to me and would not stop aggroing to me regardless of who else was there. Um, but there was one time where a fell omen spawned as the boss. And I believe they had the Morgott move set, so they were like it was their version from the capital and not from Stormveld Castle. So they had like their full repertoire of moves, and according to some other people that I live with who have also played Elden Ring, there were some move sets that were different, just some slight variations in him like throwing the daggers and things like that. And like this did seem to me like the kind of game that would take stuff that you're very familiar with and kind of like change it up a bit to fuck with you. This seems like the kind of game where it's like, yeah, it's asset dump, but we can play with it a little bit, you know. This seems like that's what this game is doing. But luckily, if a fell omen isn't like the actual boss for night two, like if he just spawns during the day, if you manage to get to the final boss arena and like start that boss fight, then he goes away at that point if you haven't taken care of him already. So thank goodness for that, but it's still very annoying. um, but One of the times I'm pretty sure the Fell Omen was the boss of Night Two, and then the other time was some absolutely ridiculous shit. If you've watched my run of Elden Ring, you know I have some history with Draconic Tree Sentinel. He almost shut down my entire run, getting like right before the capital. Um, and so like he was the other boss that I ran into, but because from Softer Dicks, he was not by himself. He had, I want to say it was like two knights cavalry with him. And I just like, we got completely creamed, and I'm pretty sure it was just by Draconic Tree Sentinel. And I'm like, why are the other two even here? Um, man, but yeah, that seems to be the pattern where they're just it can't just be like one person. It's got to be like over the top, or like the one big boss is kind of reserved for the end, I guess. But I didn't even get there, unfortunately. But yeah, that's the furthest my runs got tonight too, and then we got shut down both times, I believe. And then just like on another side of things, just more on the technical level, there were some. I did notice some tech issues. There was this really annoying glitch where my camera just kept panning up, no matter what I was doing. Um, I, it couldn't have been my controller. It was not my controller or like stick drift or anything. It was just panning like straight up, and it got really annoying. It was very like sporadic when it happened because like I played Saturday afternoon and then I played Sunday night were the two sessions I played. When I played on Saturday afternoon, it was kind of there from the start and never went away. When I played Saturday night or Sunday night, I don't think it was there at first, but then like the last few sessions I played, it kept getting like worse and worse. I think it's some kind of accumulating thing, but I really hope they find out what that is and patch that out because I'm sure it's not intentional. Or if maybe there were a couple times where it was happening during like the weather changing or saying like night is coming or something and they were trying to show me the sky and I'm like I don't care about the sky. I'm concerned about not dying. So whatever that is, please cut it out. Um and then I've heard a lot of people were having issues where they like couldn't stay in a game and were disconnecting quite a lot. I didn't experience that myself. Like when I got in a game, I was able to stay in a game. In fact, like the time frames and stuff that they said, I didn't even get like kicked off of the server until like 15 minutes after the end time that they mentioned on their website. So they were I guess they were just kind of polite about that, but I was just sitting in like round table hold messing with stuff. I'm like, "Come on, kick me out." Um but it took that long. But what I did notice was on the other side of things, where a lot of I so there were a lot of disconnections from others in the matches that I played, but they seemed more intentional. It seemed to be situations where people went down and were upset about that and didn't want to lose their shit, and so that's why they disconnected. And then it seemed to be a response to that. Well, it's like, oh well, if we don't have three people, then that second person's going to disconnect too. And then I just ended up being there by myself. Um, so that's what it seemed like on my end. But if it was involuntary disconnections and technical issues, then I did experience that. That was quite common. But I never disconnected myself. I never kicked me out of a match. So that's good at least. And I was playing on a Wi-Fi connection because I it was my PS5 downstairs. So that's pretty good. But there is a lot to iron out. Um, controls are changed up a little bit. Sprint is now like clicking L3, which is fine. Makes more sense. Um, I did like how if you're like a spellcaster using a staff, you did have like two spells at the ready, and I don't quite remember that being a thing in Elden Ring. So like I want to say it was Glintstone Pebble R1 as Recluse, and then it was Glintstone Arc if I did R2, and that was very nice. Just having like a preset set of spells and stuff like that. You do have HP flasks to heal periodically, but you don't have FP flasks. But as I mentioned, if you do go to a site of grace, you do heal like instantly, and like that would recover as well. I did also notice some. There are also things around like what do they call them? Like rawa fruit or something like that, and they have like bushes of rawa fruit around where you can recover HP as well, and then there are also like trees where you can recover FP, but it's like it's a bunch of little tree stalks around, and you can maybe just take one and leave some for the others, but no, it consumes the whole thing if someone does it. Um, but yeah, so there are some tools around like that. There's a lot of like wraith summoning, like gravestones and things like that, which were ended up being pretty helpful. There's pretty much always one in the boss arena at at the night when you get to nighttime. And so someone can activate that, and then I believe once someone activates it, other people can go over to it, and it enables or activates automatically. So that's there to help as well. In terms of consumables, I kept on multiple runs. I kept finding a wraith calling bell that ended up being pretty useful because it takes up one of your consumable slots, but it's not a consumable. You can just keep using it as long as you have FP, and then it just summons like a slow wraith that eventually floats over to the enemy and was doing a good amount of damage at least at night one, at the night one boss. So fun stuff like that. But overall, it's not going to be one to one. There's some familiar weapons, but some weapons have different move sets. Um, from what I experienced, maybe that'll be different. Um, each I didn't even talk about this. Each character has two like special abilities as well. So playing on PS5, you had to hold triangle, and then it's L2 while holding triangle or R2 while holding triangle to do those abilities. I feel like if you go to the training area, so if you go to the training area and round table hold, it'll give you like a description of things on the side. Each character has like a passive ability as well. Although for one, it was a thing where you press circle twice, so it's not passive if you have to press a button. But that kind of leans into what I was going to say, where like some of the descriptions seemed incorrect. Because like there's Guardian's Triangle and R2, his ultimate ability that you've likely seen in the trailers, where he like swoops up and like swoops back down. And the description of that said it puts up like a protective area, and I just wasn't really seeing that. The use that I found for that ability was it seems pretty good at stunning enemies, big or small. And then because you have to hit your teammates in order to revive them when they're down, I can also potentially see it being used as like if there's a teammate or two down in that area, you can swoop down, and then that AOE will hit them enough to revive them. Um, but he does also have like his triangle L2 that's like an arrow, um, like tornado effect around him. And maybe that's the protective area thing, and the descriptions were just not in the right place. Um, but yeah, Guardian has interesting moves. That R2 one is just a little unwieldy. It's kind of unpredictable in terms of where it's going to end up. It does seem to have some kind of tracking on it, but I try to like control it, and I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can do that. Um, and then I was playing Duchess a lot because they seem to have some good moves too. Surprisingly, their restage ability, which will like accumulate damage on enemy by like replaying stuff, kind of like a tracer ability. I thought that was going to be like their ultimate, their R2, but it's their L2. Surprisingly, so it recharges a whole lot faster than I feel it should. Um, I thought it would apply the damage and stuff automatically, but I think what you have to do with it is you have to have it replay a specific moment. So like their silhouette or someone's silhouette will actually hit them to apply that damage. And it's very interesting, but if you can master it, it's probably the best one, I would say. Um, and then their main one, their R2, actually appears to be some kind of invisibility. It didn't end up helping me too much, but I'm sure it has applications, especially since um, there doesn't appear to be a way to go into stealth like there used to be, because you would normally do your L3 for that, and now that's sprint. But it is kind of like a speed run mode, so it's probably like the opposite mindset of you have to hurry up and do things and can't really take your time. Um, but yeah, I didn't get too much more time with the other two characters' special abilities. I believe Wilder's supposed to have some kind of like grappling hook thing. Um, And then I think one of Recluse's is some kind of. It's I'm probably gonna describe it incorrectly, but it's something to the likes of if you like cast an ability that would apply a debuff, or or is it the opposite? If someone on your team if you like receive a debuff, then your next spell would apply that debuff to the enemy or something like that. So it's something you kind of have to like not necessarily build up, but like prep to like receive that kind of thing. Or it's a but it's something that could potentially set up like biotic explosions or something if you did the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. I would assume Andromeda, but I'm not sure. But something along those lines, and it's very interesting. There's a lot of stuff that maybe not in Guardian's case, but but definitely for like Recluse and Duchess, there's a lot. There's quite a learning curve to their abilities, but if you master them, they're probably insanely good. Like you get a lot of cool tools, and then even if you don't like the tools you're given, you can find another weapon or some other gear and stuff, and not necessarily get a build you want, but probably find a build that you'll like in each run. And yeah, it's very interesting. It's I'm not really sure. I guess some of my concerns have been put to rest over it because it does seem like a fun, interesting thing. It's very like condensed, but it probably could have just been main Elden Ring's multiplayer mode if it really wanted to be. We're gonna have to see how like content and stuff looks further down the road. Um, there's going to be a lot more playable characters. I know that much. They said there were a few that there just aren't in the network test. So it'll be interesting to see what the other characters look like. Um, it'll be interesting to see like what we can use like the Merc currency to barter with in Roundtable Hold. Um, I'm imagining cosmetics and stuff, although I imagine we can't change. Well, there wasn't really an option to change like your armor. So I wonder if there's a way. I wonder if there's going to be a way like the rights or whatever the things that you can equip for permanent upgrades. I wonder if there's going to be something for armor to do that as well. Or but I didn't really see any infrastructure or anything for that. Um, but yeah, it's tentative on how much content it gets, but it's pretty fun the way it is. And it was very network testy in that I could very much tell that we were in they were dropping us into a very specific area every time. Like especially when I played on Sunday night, I got like the same exact drop location like 5 games in a row. And I don't think it was exactly the same on Saturday afternoon, but I definitely noticed it on Sunday and was like, "Come on, man." Um, but yeah, I only got so very specific drop locations. It was all very Limgrave focused, and I'd like to think main game will put us in other locations like Kaled or Capital and stuff like that, to have more content and more variation there. But and then but yeah, so it just very specific drop location, and then in my several games, I only encountered 2 different bosses on each night. So it, yeah, but it was all under the same because when you go to matchmake, it has you pick for a match based off of like I want to say it's based off of the final boss that you're trying to go against at the end. And so with that in mind, if they just have a bunch of those listed, then they could each have their own track of like, okay, we're dropping you in this continent, you fight these people, stuff like that. And so they only had the one option for matchmaking. And so all of that specificity could just be focused under that one. Um, because it's under that boss. So if they have other bosses that could fix that, but it's very tentative on the content that we're going to get. Um, and we'll see, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Um, it's kind of speed running Elden Ring with friends, and like even people that aren't really into Elden Ring or Souls likes for whatever reason might like this as well. I kind of want to try and get my friend Adis to play it and see if he's into it because it's not the same. It's very different, but it also is like you're getting like the cliff notes of Elden Ring or Souls likes. I would say you could like show this to someone and be like, okay, now imagine stretching that out over the course of like 100 hours, and that's Elden Ring. Level up, fight boss, find gear you like, and but yeah, it's very condensed, but I think that's the thing it has going for it. Like taking a potentially daunting Elden Ring experience and like the hassle of setting up like co-op and stuff in there, um, and making it more accessible, like having an official version of it, um, and just like no huge commitment. You don't have to start a whole file together or anything. Just jump in, play for like do a round in like 30 to 45 minutes, and do choose to do another one or call it good there if you want. Like I think that's what it has going for it. But we'll see. I have no idea when the next network test is. I forget when the game's actually coming out. I think it's May. We'll see if there's another network test before then that has some more content. Maybe just different content, but the same amount of content. Maybe we get to see like the other half of characters that we didn't see in this one or something like that. That would be interesting. Um, but yeah, either way, I kind of need to go back in and see if I can at least get to that final boss one of the sessions because that would be helpful. But that's also contingent on having good players and like network overcoming network issues and things like that. Oh, got one run we started day one and level one and people were like, "I'm gonna go fight the dragon," and I'm like, I maybe wait on that a little bit. I don't know if I want to help you with that, but yeah, we'll see. But I've been talking for way too long. Dear God, I thought this would be half the length of this, if not less than that. Silly me. But yeah, I wanted to put out a video for that. And I am sorry I didn't get any footage for you, but if there's another network test, might rectify that next time. But they didn't let me do that on the console itself. I would have tried other things if I'd gotten the code like I wanted and had picked Xbox for my platform, then I would have had the capture card up here and we could have done stuff with that. But that's not how it went. But at least I got to try it out, and it's pretty interesting. And we'll see what the future holds for the Tarnished or the Night Riders and the Ghost Riders and the yeah. I should probably get back to my DLC run at some point as well because I am still in the thick of that. But there's already 5,000 other games to play. Help! I'm drowning. Help me. But yeah, we'll see what the future holds. But until then, thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the lands between in the future.